My beloved child, pause for just a moment, because what you're about to hear is not a prediction, but a story that has a quiet way of reflecting the feelings many hearts carry without ever speaking aloud. Don't skip. Sometimes a single moment of understanding can make an ordinary day feel completely different. Imagine that somewhere, without planning it, two people have reached the same realization from opposite directions. One has finally found the courage to admit what their heart has been whispering all along, while the other is only beginning to understand that those quiet gestures, those unnoticed moments, and those gentle silences were never ordinary. They were pieces of a message that took time to be understood. If you've ever wondered whether genuine feelings can be recognized too late, stay till the end, because this story unfolds one small realization at a time. There was no dramatic announcement. No grand confession. No perfectly timed conversation beneath a sky full of stars. Instead, it began with something almost invisible. A memory appeared without invitation. A smile that had been forgotten suddenly returned with perfect clarity. A sentence spoken months ago started carrying a meaning it never seemed to have before. Strange, isn't it? Sometimes the heart understands long after the mind believes everything has already been explained. And when that happens, nothing outside changes immediately, yet everything inside quietly begins to shift. The person at the center of this story believed they had already figured everything out. They convinced themselves that silence meant distance, that patience meant uncertainty, and that gentle kindness was simply part of someone's nature. They kept moving through each day, never realizing that every thoughtful word, every moment of encouragement, every calm goodbye had been carrying a feeling too sincere to be recognized at first. It wasn't hidden on purpose. It simply spoke a language that only time could translate. Then one ordinary afternoon, something happened that seemed almost too simple to matter. They heard a familiar name during an unrelated conversation. Nothing dramatic followed. No music played. No miraculous sign appeared. Yet that single moment opened a door inside their heart they didn't even know had been closed. Suddenly memories arrived one after another, not as random thoughts, but as connected pieces of the same picture. Every conversation felt different now. Every shared laugh gained new meaning. Even the quiet moments they once ignored seemed brighter than before. What surprised them most wasn't discovering another person's feelings. It was realizing how often genuine affection had stood patiently nearby while they searched everywhere else for certainty. They remembered moments when someone had listened a little longer than necessary. Times when encouragement appeared exactly when it was needed. Small acts of care that never asked for recognition. Looking back, those moments formed a pattern impossible to ignore. The heart had been speaking gently all along. Perhaps that is why some stories arrive exactly when they do. Not because life suddenly changes overnight, but because understanding finally catches up with reality. There is a remarkable difference between seeing someone, and truly noticing them. Many people pass through life believing they missed their chance, when in truth they simply hadn't reached the chapter where everything finally made sense. As this realization continued to grow, the world around them looked strangely familiar yet completely new. Places they had visited together carried a softer warmth. Old conversations echoed differently. Even ordinary days began holding unexpected hope. They found themselves smiling for reasons they couldn't easily explain. They weren't imagining a future. They were finally appreciating what had quietly existed in the background all along. Something important is waiting for you in the next part of this story, because the realization itself was only the beginning. Once the truth settled into their heart, they felt an irresistible pull to revisit one forgotten moment, a moment so small that almost anyone else would have overlooked it. Yet hidden inside that single memory was the answer they had been searching for without ever knowing it. And when they finally understood what that moment truly meant, they realized their heart would never see the past, or the future, the same way again. The quietest discoveries often arrive without asking for attention. They settle into the heart so gently that, at first, they almost feel like imagination. But this was different. The more those forgotten memories returned, the more impossible it became to dismiss them. Every overlooked detail seemed to carry the same gentle message, patiently waiting until the right moment to be understood. Don't skip, because this part of the story reveals why some feelings only become clear after enough time has passed for every missing piece to find its place. It happened while reflecting on an ordinary evening that had never seemed important before. There had been laughter, comfortable silence, and words so simple that anyone else might have forgotten them within hours. Yet now, those same words returned with remarkable clarity. They weren't extraordinary because of what they said. They were extraordinary because of how they had been spoken. There had been warmth behind every sentence, quiet care behind every glance, and a sincerity that asked for nothing in return. Only now did the meaning become impossible to ignore. Have you ever looked back at a single moment and realized it had been quietly changing your life all along? That is exactly what unfolded here. The heart has a remarkable way of preserving what truly matters, even when the mind places it aside. Long after conversations end and days move forward, genuine kindness leaves echoes that never completely disappear. Sometimes those echoes become the very thing that guides someone back toward what they almost overlooked. As the days continued, a gentle shift took place inside them. Instead of wondering what might have been, they began noticing what had always been there. They remembered the encouragement that arrived exactly when confidence was fading. They remembered thoughtful questions that showed someone had truly been listening. They remembered moments when they felt completely understood without needing to explain themselves. None of those memories demanded attention when they first happened. Yet together, they formed something unmistakable. There was no rush to act. No overwhelming urgency. Only a growing sense that some connections deserve to be seen with fresh eyes. They found themselves smiling unexpectedly whenever another memory surfaced. Even the smallest details carried surprising comfort now. It wasn't because the past had changed. It was because understanding had finally caught up with experience. Stay till the end, because this is where the story begins to reveal its quiet turning point. Realizing another person's feelings was only one side of the journey. An even deeper realization was waiting just beneath it. They slowly recognized that the compassion, patience, and honesty they admired had inspired them long before they admitted it to themselves. The connection they thought they were discovering had, in many ways, already been shaping who they were becoming. That realization brought peace instead of confusion. It reminded them that meaningful relationships are rarely built in dramatic moments. More often, they grow through countless small choices that seem ordinary until viewed together. A thoughtful message. A shared laugh. A moment of encouragement during a difficult day. Each one becomes another quiet thread, woven into something far stronger than anyone notices at first. And then, just when it seemed every answer had finally arrived, one unexpected memory appeared, a memory they had almost completely forgotten. It wasn't the happiest moment they had shared, nor the longest conversation. It lasted only a few seconds. Yet hidden inside those few seconds was a detail neither of them had understood at the time. The instant that memory returned, everything else suddenly fit together in a way it never had before. What they discovered within that forgotten moment would gently reshape every chapter that follows. There are moments that seem too small to remember, yet they quietly become the foundation of everything that follows. This forgotten memory was one of those moments. It had lived unnoticed in the background for so long that neither heart had recognized its importance. But now, as every detail returned with remarkable clarity, it felt as though time itself had gently paused, allowing the truth to step forward without hurry. Don't skip, because the meaning hidden inside this memory is not what anyone expected. It was a simple exchange. Nothing dramatic. No promises were made, no unforgettable speeches filled the air. There was only a brief pause in an ordinary conversation, followed by a smile that lingered just a little longer than necessary. At the time, it seemed completely natural. Yet looking back, that quiet pause revealed something words never could. It was the moment when one heart had silently hoped the other would understand without needing an explanation. Strange, isn't it? Sometimes people reveal their deepest feelings through what they choose not to say. They protect fragile emotions behind kindness, patience, and quiet consistency, hoping that one day those actions will speak more clearly than any confession ever could. That was the language of this story. It was never about perfect timing. It was always about sincere presence. As this realization settled deeper, another unexpected thought appeared. They began asking themselves why certain memories refused to disappear while countless others had faded away. Why did that smile remain so vivid? Why did that ordinary conversation continue returning when so many larger moments had already slipped into the distance? The answer arrived softly. Genuine affection has a way of leaving gentle fingerprints on the heart. Even when life moves forward, those impressions remain, patiently waiting until they are finally understood. Stay till the end, because something even more meaningful is beginning to unfold. The more they reflected, the more they noticed that every meaningful memory shared one quiet detail in common. None of them were built around extraordinary events. They were built around feeling safe, understood, and accepted exactly as they were. Those were the moments that mattered most. Those were the moments the heart had protected all along. From that day forward, familiar places felt different. A favorite path, a peaceful afternoon, even the sound of gentle laughter seemed to carry new meaning. It wasn't because the world had changed overnight. It was because appreciation had replaced uncertainty. They no longer searched for proof hidden in grand gestures. Instead, they recognized that the strongest feelings often reveal themselves through steady care, thoughtful attention, and unwavering respect. Then another quiet realization arrived, one that caught them completely by surprise. They understood that while they had been trying to protect their own heart from disappointment, someone else had been carefully protecting theirs from pressure. No demands. No expectations. No attempts to rush what needed time. Only patient understanding, quietly waiting until both hearts reached the same page naturally. That realization brought an unexpected sense of calm. There was nothing to chase. Nothing to force. Meaningful connections don't bloom because someone rushes them forward. They grow because both people slowly discover the value that has been standing beside them all along. Once that understanding takes root, everything begins to feel lighter, clearer, and far more genuine than before. Yet this journey is far from complete. Just as peace began replacing uncertainty, another chapter quietly prepared itself to unfold. Somewhere beyond these memories, an unexpected conversation was about to take place, one that neither person had planned, yet one that would gently confirm everything the heart had only recently begun to understand. And when those words were finally spoken, they would open a door neither of them realized had been waiting all this time. Some conversations are planned for weeks. Others arrive so naturally that no one realizes they have stepped into a moment that will be remembered for years. This was one of those conversations. It didn't begin with extraordinary words or carefully prepared sentences. It began with a quiet question, followed by an even quieter pause, as though both hearts were waiting for permission to speak honestly for the very first time. Stay till the end, because what happened next was not about dramatic declarations. It was about recognizing a truth that had been patiently growing beneath every shared moment. The atmosphere felt strangely peaceful. There was no need to impress anyone. No need to hide behind uncertainty anymore. Instead, there was a gentle openness that made every sentence feel lighter than before. Sometimes the greatest gift two people can give each other is simply the freedom to be completely genuine. In that space, even ordinary words begin carrying extraordinary meaning. As they spoke, something unexpected became clear. They realized that neither of them had truly misunderstood the other. They had simply been protecting their own hearts while hoping not to place unnecessary expectations on someone they deeply respected. What once appeared to be hesitation was, in reality, patience. What once looked like distance was thoughtful care. And what had felt like unanswered emotion had quietly been growing stronger with every passing day. Isn't it remarkable how perspective can transform everything? A memory that once brought uncertainty now brought gratitude. A silence that once felt confusing now felt peaceful. Every small act of kindness, every encouraging word, every shared smile suddenly fit together like pieces of a picture that had always existed, waiting only for the right light to reveal it. Don't skip, because the most meaningful realization was still ahead. They discovered that genuine feelings are rarely measured by grand moments. They are revealed through consistency. Through showing up when it matters. Through remembering the little things others forget. Through offering encouragement without expecting anything in return. Those quiet choices had written a story long before either of them recognized its meaning. As this understanding settled into their hearts, a calm confidence replaced every lingering doubt. There was no longer a need to search endlessly for hidden signs or perfect timing. The greatest reassurance had been present from the beginning. A connection built on kindness, respect, patience, and sincere appreciation. Those qualities never demanded attention, yet they quietly became the strongest part of the story. Then, just as it seemed the journey had reached its peaceful conclusion, one final surprise gently appeared. It wasn't a dramatic event. It wasn't an unexpected interruption. It was something far more meaningful. They found themselves looking toward the future with a sense of quiet hope neither had felt before. For the first time, imagining tomorrow no longer felt uncertain. It felt possible. And as the evening slowly faded into stillness, one gentle thought remained in both hearts. Sometimes the greatest turning point is not the moment someone finally realizes your true feelings. It is the moment they begin seeing every shared memory through the light of that realization. From then on, nothing looks quite the same, because even the smallest moments become reminders of something beautifully genuine. Yet this story still holds one final chapter. There is one memory neither of them has spoken about aloud, a simple moment that quietly connects every piece of this journey together. When that memory is finally shared, its meaning will reveal why some connections don't ask to be rushed. They simply wait until both hearts are ready to recognize what has been there all along. There is always one final piece that quietly completes the picture. Not the loudest memory. Not the most unforgettable day. Just a single moment that waits patiently until every other part of the journey has found its place. That moment had remained untouched for so long that neither of them realized it was carrying the answer they had both been searching for. Don't skip, because this gentle ending begins with something almost too simple to notice. It was a moment filled with nothing more than ordinary life. The world around them continued exactly as it always had. People came and went. Conversations drifted by. Time moved forward without announcing that anything meaningful was happening. Yet in the middle of that ordinary day, they looked at each other for only a few quiet seconds. No promises were spoken. No explanations were needed. It was simply a moment of complete understanding, one that neither heart fully appreciated until much later. Now, looking back, everything became beautifully clear. Every encouraging word. Every thoughtful gesture. Every patient silence. Every reason they had chosen kindness over impatience. None of it had been accidental. Every small action had quietly built trust, and trust had become the foundation upon which genuine feelings could finally be recognized. Stay till the end, because the most beautiful realization is often the last to arrive. They understood that real affection is rarely loud. It doesn't compete for attention or demand immediate answers. Instead, it grows through consistency. It appears in the person who remembers the little things that everyone else forgets. It remains present during ordinary days instead of waiting only for extraordinary ones. It chooses understanding before assumption and patience before haste. Those qualities had always been there. Only now could they truly be seen. As this understanding settled into their hearts, something unexpected happened. The questions that once filled every quiet evening slowly disappeared. They no longer wondered whether the connection had been meaningful. They no longer searched every memory for hidden clues. The uncertainty that had once seemed impossible to escape quietly gave way to gratitude. Sometimes the greatest peace comes not from receiving every answer, but from finally recognizing the value that has been surrounding you all along. In that calm realization, they smiled. Not because every chapter of the future had already been written, but because they no longer feared turning the next page. Hope felt lighter now. More genuine. More peaceful. They understood that meaningful connections are not measured by dramatic moments alone. They are strengthened through countless ordinary days filled with honesty, respect, compassion, and quiet encouragement. Something important has unfolded throughout this story. It was never simply about someone finally realizing another person's feelings. It was about discovering that sincere emotions often become visible only after time has gently removed every distraction. When the heart slows down enough to notice what has always been present, even familiar memories begin shining with new meaning. And so the story closes with quiet confidence instead of uncertainty. Two hearts, once looking in different directions, now carry a deeper understanding of everything they shared. The path ahead remains unwritten, as every meaningful journey should, but it is no longer approached with hesitation. It is approached with gratitude, hope, and the quiet knowledge that the most lasting connections are rarely rushed. They are patiently built, gently recognized, and deeply appreciated. As the final page settles into silence, one lasting thought remains. Sometimes the greatest gift is not hearing the words you hoped for. Sometimes it is realizing those words have been reflected through kindness, respect, and unwavering care all along. And once that truth is finally seen, the heart carries it forward with a quiet joy that doesn't need to be announced, because it already knows exactly where it belongs. The story does not end with a grand finale. Instead, it settles into something far more lasting. A quiet certainty that grows stronger with every passing day. Long after the questions faded, long after the uncertainty softened into understanding, one truth remained untouched. The most meaningful connections are rarely recognized in a single breathtaking moment. They reveal themselves gently, through patience, sincerity, and the countless ordinary moments that quietly become unforgettable. If you have stayed with this story until now, perhaps you have noticed something remarkable. It was never really about chasing answers. It was about learning to recognize the beauty that often hides inside life's simplest moments. A thoughtful conversation. A kind glance. A word of encouragement offered without expecting anything in return. These are the moments that leave the deepest impressions because they come from a place of genuine care rather than urgency. As the days continued, both hearts carried a new perspective. They no longer looked backward with regret. Instead, they looked back with gratitude, realizing that every chapter, even the uncertain ones, had quietly prepared them to understand each other more deeply. The memories that once raised questions now offered comfort. The silence that once seemed confusing now felt peaceful, as though it had simply been giving both hearts the time they needed to grow. Stay with this final moment, because the ending of this story is found in something beautifully simple. One evening, as the sun slowly disappeared beyond the horizon, there was no dramatic announcement, no extraordinary event waiting around the corner. There was only a quiet sense of peace. The kind of peace that arrives when someone finally stops searching outside themselves for certainty and begins appreciating what has already shaped their journey. In that calm stillness, every shared smile, every thoughtful gesture, and every honest conversation felt like treasured pages in a story that had been written with patience instead of haste. The future remained unwritten, and that was not something to fear. It was something to welcome. Every new day carried the possibility of fresh conversations, deeper understanding, unexpected laughter, and meaningful moments still waiting to be created. The beauty of any sincere connection is that it continues to grow, not because every answer is already known, but because trust allows each new chapter to unfold naturally. And so this story leaves you with a quiet reminder. Sometimes the greatest realization is not discovering that someone has finally understood another person's feelings. It is recognizing how kindness, honesty, patience, and compassion can transform ordinary moments into lasting memories. Those are the things that endure. Those are the things that continue to shine long after excitement fades. As the final page gently closes, the evening becomes still, the questions become lighter, and hope quietly takes their place. Whatever paths these two hearts choose from here, they move forward carrying something precious, a deeper appreciation for what it means to truly see another person, to value the small moments, and to let understanding arrive in its own perfect time. And perhaps that is the most beautiful ending of all. Not an ending built on certainty, but one built on possibility. Not a conclusion that demands answers, but one that celebrates growth. Because every meaningful story leaves behind more than memories, it leaves behind the quiet belief that genuine understanding, once discovered, has the power to brighten every chapter that follows. The story ends here, but its warmth lingers, gently reminding anyone who reflects on it that some of life's most meaningful connections are recognized not through extraordinary events, but through the quiet grace of hearts learning, growing, and understanding one another, one sincere moment at a time.